Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Breaking News. You are alive. It's the name of our new podcast. I am Steven, your host, joined today with my man Alex and my man Times Square, Tony Ware. Say what's up, fellas.
Yeah, yeah.
What's going on, guys?
This is a new podcast brought to you by the homies from Harlem. And we are a couple of brothers here talking about some topics that we feel are relevant, bringing it to you from a black perspective. And the name of our show is Breaking News, You're Alive, which is a show title that I love. And yeah, we're gonna be bringing you some hot button issues that we feel are important to us. And before we get started, I want to talk about where we came up with the name, Breaking News, You're Alive. I love the title, and one thing it gives me is appreciation for the moment, just being here. And actually, Alex, you're the one who came up with the title. You actually said it in conversation. So why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's it's kind of like a literal title. It means kind of what it says in that sense. We were just talking, and I guess we were talking about different things, and I just kind of mentioned how it can get, we get bogged down with so many details, the minutia of life, so much that you kind of lose appreciation for the larger picture, which is we're alive and it's kind of amazing, and we're on this planet, and so many different things had to come together for you to be even conscious enough to recognize that. And it's very easy to lose sight of that, and lose sight of the small kind of miracles of the day, the sun, the moon, and cliche things of that nature. But on the larger picture, just kind of to remind ourselves not to forget to just appreciate the miracle of life. So that's the gist of how the title came about. But it also kind of extends to my life philosophy, which I'll get into over the course of these episodes.
Yeah,
Unpack that as well.
as rainbows and sunshines as that sounds, he actually is coming from a very dark place.
Yeah.
Just a little background. Alex and I are roommates, and we just met over the course of the past 4 or 5 months. And I had my own radio show for a while, and so this is kind of the second round. And I've been waiting to meet someone who was on that wavelength where we could talk about topics, and I enjoy playing devil's advocate. And Alex has a very specific point of view on how he sees life. Some would say it's bleak, but the title of the show kind of came from that conversation of us talking about that topic. So I'm gonna kind of summarize where he's coming from, and he kind of believes that nothing matters, in the sense that we might stress over little decisions that we make, like being late to work or cheating on a test or even stealing something from the store. Things that, if you look at the scope of life, will seem trivial in 100 years, of course. So it's a total opposite view of, especially the way that I was raised. I was raised in the church and taught that everything mattered. Every little mistake, every positive thing, every negative thing, everything you do, the pebble effect. There's the ripples, and you're responsible for every ripple that's created. So having those diametrically opposed views, and I say diametrically opposed in that I'm able to play devil's advocate and kind of we can go head to head on topics because of that. But I tend to agree with most of the things that Alex says. So again, I'm summarizing. I'm maybe oversimplifying your point of view. So I'm going to give you a chance to explain, of course. But that is kind of how the title came. Is Breaking News, You're Alive, because babies got cancer, and people get struck by lightning, and meteors hit fucking people, and ships crash, and bad shit happens. And at the end of the day, if you're stressing over a parking spot or a fight or with your girlfriend, you're stressing over these little things that really have nothing to do with the overall picture of the moment of life. And that, I think we both agree on that. But again, I'm oversimplifying it. Please feel free to take the mic.
Yeah, it's close. That was close. I mean, I think that it's not that nothing matters. I just feel like a lot of the things that we value, that we put effort to, do not matter. So I'm left actually with, I feel, maybe a general more kind of like more appreciation for the things that people kind of overlook day to day, because I value those more because they mean more overall. So when I said things like babies get cancer, I'm just trying to illustrate how little control we really have over our own mortality and how little things like karma actually mean. Because if that's the case, and that is the case, then how do you explain things like that? And yeah, the meteor thing, just, I'm gonna throw it out there. It was in one event that may have been unverified, and it was in India. So I'm not gonna use that as an example for my point of view, because it low key might have not even happened.
I'm
guess.
sure somewhere in time a man has been hit by a meteor.
But I will say this: if it did happen, that would really illustrate my point about, what role we play on this planet, and how little control we have, and how much time we spend every day trying to control our outcomes, and how futile that is. So that kind of sums up what I appreciated, the things that I'm just in control of, which is, hey, look, I'm conscious of the fact that I'm alive. I treat people who I care about really well, or treat people generally really well, because that's what I value. And then the rest of the shit, I try not to let it really put me down too much, because ultimately it won't matter. You know what I'm saying? That's that. And I'll unpack it as we go forward, but that's a pretty good starting point.
So, like we said, breaking news, you're alive.
Hell yeah.
So the reason why we want to start the show is, like I said, we don't feel like there's enough voices out there that represent our points of view. So we're bringing the black perspective on many different topics, and today, one of the first topics we decided to tackle is marriage, and weirdly enough, strangely enough, we're three men who are not married, attacking the idea. Well, attacking is the wrong word, but when I say attack, I mean attacking the issue, the topic, unpacking the idea of marriage is our first show, is what we have planned, and strangely enough, we are not. At least I don't plan on attacking the institution of marriage, but I know Alex plans on bringing a different perspective into marriage. So we got into this topic again from Alex's point of his strange point of view when it comes to marriage. So I'm gonna let you start this one off.
Yeah. So I just want to start off by saying that I am not against marriage. I am against failure, mathematical failure. Marriage, as we all know, is it plays a pivotal role in almost all the societies that that we know now have existed. There's been some form of marriage. They take different forms, but the basics are the same. People come together, they do a lifetime bond, and the variables could be completely different, and those continue to be redefined. And I'm not interested in proposing any type of different type of marriage. I want to address Christian marriage, civil marriage, religious unions, and just recommend a tweak.
Well, before we get into this, why don't we say what marriage is? What is marriage? What is marriage? What is marriage, and what is it today?
Well, in my opinion, marriage is simply just a contract. It's legally binding, and it's between two individuals. Or more, by the way. Or more, but legally speaking, it's between two individuals.
Specifically speaking from a governmental legal point, it's a contract.
It's a contract, yeah. And it's a contract that ends in failure, and we've all heard that statistic about half the marriages end in divorce, or whatever the number is, 60%. It doesn't matter. A lot of people end up being divorced. And for me, my question has always been, if there's something that is so pivotal to societal development or a pillar in society, why would we be okay with a failure rate of any kind of above 20 or 30% or 40% or whatever the number is?
But now let me ask you this. Isn't that number specific to America and not the world?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
I find it hard to believe that 50% of marriages are failing in India.
Yeah, but I think that that could be a reflection of how unwilling people are trying to go through with divorce in a particular place. Not just the fact that they're just in successful marriages. And that's another point. The numbers may not even reflect how much of a failure marriage is. It could actually be understated. Because there are a lot of cultures that, with religion is really, prevalent in a culture, it's frowned upon to divorce. Not allowed, looked down upon. You get ostracized. So people stay in bad marriages.
Plus, I think in India, if you get divorced, you got to pay the money, the dow, whatever they call
Whatever
it.
the case
you have
may
to
be.
pay it back. Yeah,
Sure.
You got to get the money back. So,
But so, anyways, my thing was this is a thing that's important to communities all over the world. It has a failure rate that is too high to be acceptable for the kind of role it plays. So I propose.
So your argument is that we have invested as a species in an institution that has been failing, in theory, been failing for a very long time.
At an
And so
unacceptable rate.
as a
Yeah.
species, as an intelligent species, it would seem to be that if we recognize this institution as something that failed, we would address the issue
Long
and
time.
try to see if there were alternatives that were more successful.
Absolutely. And that's with anything, I think. I mean, anything that important, you would think, no one would allow it or be okay with something that critical just failing on that level. So, but I think the reason why we've continued is because there hasn't really been a viable alternative. There's just one way. They have changed. People have changed. The people who get married, and that has changed. But overall, marriage represents the same thing. Legally, it's the same, and the terms of a marriage have pretty much stayed the same. The perks or whatever have changed, but again, the baseline of it has stayed the same, which is what I think.
It's a contract
an
for
issue.
life.
It's an issue, yeah.
It's a
I have
contract for
problem.
life.
I think that a lot of people kind of have to go through with that because there's no other way to move forward in a relationship without being an outlier, without going through what's available to them, which is this lifetime contract. And that leads to my proposal.
Is there anything else in life where you sign a lifetime contract?
I'm sure there is. I'm not gonna sit here and say there isn't. But a 30-year mortgage.
I can't think of one.
A 30-year mortgage. If you're 50, you might as well call that shit lifetime. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, but you're talking about something that
LeBron signed a lifetime contract with Nike, so I don't know what that means, but he did.
didn't Jordan sign one with Nike too?
Yeah, basically in effect, but he has a company. But no, generally speaking, I don't think so. But again, if I can't even think about it off the top of my head, it's not that important. But marriage is, and marriage is a lifetime contract.
So it's definitely well known that marriage is a lifetime contract.
100%.
There
I think
isn't
in any type
anyone
of
in
marriage.
any of this in
And that
anywhere.
applies to, polygyny, whatever,
Polygamy.
polyandry, monogamy, any kind of marriage you want to imagine, couples that swing, they're in a lifetime contract. Now, because of this lifetime attachment to it, I think a lot of people have gotten married with the best intentions at heart, but they were not prepared to follow through, which is unfair to the spouse and unfair to themselves, to be honest with you. So I look at that as, okay, fine, that person lied to the person they're with and they lied to themselves and they went through with this ceremony and they basically just decided this is what they were going to do. Yes, they're shitty, but what if there was another option? That's what I started thinking. Maybe they just did that to not have to face the question you get at your Thanksgiving, or just, in society, how people look at aging people, and especially women, you know what I mean? And they say, look, you're like in your mid-30s, what's going on, So what if there was another option that kind of just gave people another way out or another path to follow? So I started thinking about marriage contracts.
What's a marriage contract?
I mean, a marriage is a contract. So I put an S to signify that now I would my proposal would be expand the scope of what a contractual marriage would represent.
What would the basic marriage contract be like, in your opinion?
There wouldn't even be a basic one, right? So I watch a lot of NBA, and NBA, basically an NBA player and the team sign a contract, and it's a certain agreed upon length of time, and you play out your contract, and if you and the team want to renew the contract, you can do so, based on either party. I like that model for marriage. I think that we should introduce different type of marriage contracts. So, example, you're an 18-year-old kid. You've fallen in love with your high school sweetheart. You've been dating her since, I don't know, you were 15 years old. And you tell your father, look, this is the one. Because at that age, at that time, you're more sure of that than anything else. Because that's what part of being 18 is about. Now, as a parent, there's really nothing you can do to stop your kid. They're an adult, they're 18, they can go ahead and get married. All you can do is offer advice. What if you could say, okay, my daughter wants to get married to this guy, and there's really nothing I can do, but I could recommend they do a 4-year marriage with a 5th year optional. So that would mean that she would really essentially marry for 4 years, and in the 5th year, she could then decide together with her husband whether they wanted to continue the marriage. And then more options would open up after that. And this applies to anybody. It's not just about the youth, it's young people. It's about whoever. You're considering marriage, you're not sure of the person you're with, but instead of just kind of tunneling people into this one option, just expand it. There'll be 5-year marriage, 7-year contract, 2-year deal with a 3rd year optional. You know what I mean? You get the advantages of being married. You get to put somebody on your insurance, vice versa. You get to be next of kin. All these things that are just not available when you're just dating someone suddenly become available. Plus, you have the advantage of kind of being with someone in a shorter amount of time to decide whether or not you really want to continue your life with them.
So now, but it sounds to me that the only thing you're really changing is the actual divorce. Because what you're saying is that the marriage is going to stay the same, but at the end of the 4 years, you can option out, and we don't have to go through a messy divorce.
Yeah, and divorces are expensive financially.
But now here's the question: is that if you marry someone, and at the end of those 4 years, aren't they still entitled to half of your shit?
I haven't worked that out. I don't know how that, to be honest with you, I don't know how.
Well, because here's the thing, right? I mean, everything you're saying, okay, let's keep the institution of marriage. Let's just make it an easier way out.
Well, not easier way out. I just think
because what else are you changing besides the end?
Well, you're
not really changing the beginning.
No, I just want to resolve an issue.
Which is
that this institution is seeing major failure, which I think can be resolved by giving people a wider array of options of what marriage actually could be. You can still have a lifetime marriage. If you're sure about a person, you go ahead and do that. That's fine. I'm not speaking towards you and your needs, really. I'm talking to the people who stand at the altar knowing that they shouldn't even be there. They're unsure, but they feel like they kind of have to do this thing just to kind of get certain things out of the way. You know what I mean? That's what I'm talking to. I'm talking about people who make bad decisions all the time about who they marry. You jump the gun. You meet someone, you guys get married in 4 weeks or 2 weeks in Vegas, whatever you did. I'm giving you an array of options, a menu of marriage. You go, you meet someone, you really like them. 2 weeks from now, y'all want to get married. Go ahead and start off with a 3-year joint. See how that works out. And in 3 years, if you guys want to go ahead and go forward with it, you go ahead and renew it. In 3 years, if it didn't work out, didn't work out in the first year,
but if in 3 years I win the lottery, and then you want to end the contract in 3 years, are you going to take half my winnings?
Okay, so this is
because
the problem.
Isn't that the most important? That's basically what we're talking about.
But I guess this is the issue with coming up with these kind of half-baked ideas. I don't know what kind of property sharing, finance things that will come with each. I imagine
But again,
the shorter ones, you're less entitled.
but isn't that the issue, right? Because
I don't think so.
What is the issue, right? The issue is that we're talking about an institution that fails.
Yes, for various reasons.
Well, there's no difference between a 3-year contract failing and a 100-year contract. Failure is failure, correct?
Correct.
So or at least what I gather is that you're trying to attack the idea of how to extend the life of this contract, how to make it better, right? So it's not the idea of making the contract better; it's the idea of making the way out better, right? Because you can't make a contract of marriage better. Like if you want to make it better, you say, well, give me a blowjob every night and I'll cook dinner every night. Like that makes a contract better.
No,
but
I mean
having a contract is still, the idea is the same. We still have a contract together.
I disagree.
We get those legal benefits.
I think that
we meet society standards of what a marriage is. But and again, I know you're saying that you haven't worked it out, but I guess my problem with it is that the institution of marriage itself is not the failure. The failure is people deciding to do something they're not sure about.
Well, sure, I agree.
So we're trying to fix the consequences, right? Because the consequences are what makes it messy, right?
Now,
if it wasn't for divorce and separating children and separating property and separating finances, then it wouldn't be that big of a deal. If we just got married for a lifetime contract and we decided to break it and then everything stayed the same, then there wouldn't be an issue.
No,
okay?
but I think the issues also come with people get married, have kids, the family breaks up. There are other consequences other than financial.
No, for sure, but those same consequences still exist under a 3-year contract.
I don't think so, because that's my point. And I guess I didn't make this point, but I think part of the reason where I think marriage also kind of fails, and I know this from I guess personal experience. Not that I was married, but I've been around a lot of failed marriages, and I hear a common thing is like the relationship changed. There's a certain pressure that comes with being married, I guess. It doesn't happen to every couple, I'm sure, and some people are able to navigate whatever that means. But this pressure, I think, comes from the fact that you have to kind of make this work until you die.
But again,
that's kind of crazy?
Isn't that more of societal pressure or religious pressure?
Whatever the pressure.
That doesn't really have anything to do with the fact that all you have to do is call a lawyer and you can get a divorce.
No, but what I'm saying is, wherever the pressure is coming from, we still only have one type of marriage in terms of, like, let's call them terms. And I think we don't know what would happen if we expanded what that means, right? So
I agree.
If you're in a 3-year marriage, you have a very clear point of where you're trying to go. I know what I'm trying to accomplish in those 3 years, and you know what you're trying to accomplish in those 3 years. If we both set goals and we don't accomplish them in those 3 years, we both get to decide whether we want to continue being married or not. In a traditional, let's call them traditional wedding, you just have to stick it through no matter what. That's literally is in the vows, just kind of try to push through no matter what, and that's ridiculous. I think that's unfair. Sometimes you don't have to stick it through. You don't have to be married for 10 years and be miserable for 7 of them. Just because you decided to jump this, you get into this huge thing with a person, and there's all these legal ramifications and all these societal pressures, and of course, when you expand the contracts, people will use those against each other. Oh, you only got a 3-year deal. He must not really love you, and that's going to happen regardless. But again, expanding the scope of what a marriage can be can't be harmful. I mean, the institution as it is barely standing up, I think, personally.
Can I say something? I'm listening, and I'm not agreeing or disagreeing. I think marriage is good if it's run right, but I think with the way society is now, we should have companionship agreements. We agree to be companions, and you lay down the laws. I'm going to be with you only, or I'm going to be with you, but one day a week we get to step out, whatever, and you're just together, and you build stuff together, and then when you get to the point where, you know what, it ain't working no more, okay, well, you go your way and I'll go my way. And you were just basically helping each other. Because, basically, I'll speak from a man's point of view. if we had a chick that we could just screw whenever we wanted to, and we didn't have to put up with the nonsense, that would be great. That would be great, especially if you already have children. If you have kids that are and they're adult, you just want a chick that you can screw, maybe go out with, and then you don't have to see her until you're ready. That would be heaven for me.
Wow.
Women, on the other hand, they want the guy around, to take care of the house and to do those things. And if they got somebody that would come and do that stuff for them when they need it, and then they would go away, there'd be a lot more happy people in the world. Now, that's not everybody. There are people, maybe like you two gentlemen, that might want to get married, have your wife there, and have her be was it monogamous with you, and you own it. That's fine. I'm not that's the way marriage was intended to be. But I'm telling you right now, let me find a chick that I can just stick when I want to, hang out when I want to, and treat her nice, and then go home and I have to see her until I'm ready to see her again. I'm in.
So it's interesting
I
that
disagree.
it's interesting that you bring that up. Well, it's funny, and it's funny that you say you disagree, because here's a man who's saying he's actually agreeing with you. He's saying, "Yeah, I would like this option." He is saying what his option is.
Yeah, but my
Well,
option.
there is no yes.
No.
See, like you're
Actually,
trying to
you
constrict.
know what's funny? Let me actually.
You're trying.
Interesting
Hold on.
point. This is a side point. Okay.
You're trying to constrict his idea of what he would like his marriage to look like, and his idea is a companionship marriage, which is actually just a lower model of what you're saying, because you're saying 3-year contract, and and actually what you're saying is different, because you're saying actual marriage 3 years. He's saying companionship.
Yeah, it's not the same.
A companionship contract, which gives you all the same legal rights as a marriage, but you guys are actually saying the same thing.
No,
Is he
no,
wants
no.
he wants the legal rights,
But-
he just doesn't want to be obligated for the financial aspect at the end. He
And
just
the
wants to
foolishness.
go
Those are
the
different
separate
variables.
ways.
Like those variables you mentioned, I'm not addressing. I don't know what. I'm not recommending the type of women or men people should be with. You, that's your preference. I can't regulate that, because that is, people just have a ridiculously wide array of requirements. Those are his requirements, and I guess within my contract, if you 3, 4, 5, 7-year deal, you would make that what you just said work within those parameters. Maybe that is ideal for 2 years, 3 years. But no, I'm not speaking about
now
those.
wait, because
But what he did say, though, was, as I was looking into marriages, there's something called a walking marriage. And it was practiced, and maybe still is, very small percentage of people still in the Mosul culture in China. And this is, I mean, this is true. The marriage basically is, the man and the woman only spend time together at nighttime. And the man goes to the woman's house, they sleep together, and then he's gone for the day. If they have a child, the child stays with the mom and is raised by the mother's uncles and brothers. I mean, the mother's male relatives. And that's just how that's the type of marriage it was. So that sounded like the type of, so you really actually don't have interaction with your spouse or with your partner anytime during the day. And you guys just actually see each other at nighttime, whether or not you have kids or not. But the father is not involved in the kid's life on any level. The kid stays with the mom, raised in the mom's house with the mom's relatives, and the father is just a nighttime visitor. I just thought that was kind of ill.
right,
Yeah,
but
and
I think
crazy.
But I think what he's saying though, is if he has a girl and they just want to sleep together, and they're very good friends, and they want the same legal benefits that a married couple gets. They want to be able to sign insurance for each other. They want to be able to make death decisions for each other. They want to have those benefits. So, in this world of contracts, why isn't it possible to have a companionship contract in that we're not married,
Sure.
right? But we are still legally obligated to each other.
Like I said, he could. What I'm saying is, he was very
Like
specific.
no, but don't. But see, I'm saying what I'm saying is don't focus on the specifics of what he wants from that woman. The specifics I got was companionship in that you're not my wife, I'm not your husband, but we are legally obligated because we both
Yeah,
decided
do it, yeah, fine.
we decided to
Sure.
open this business together.
Yeah, okay.
Because that's what marriage is, right?
Right.
It's a
Do it.
business of
Right.
contracts that allows me to have life insurance on you, allows me to make health decisions over you, power of attorney. So there's a lot of benefits,
sure.
right? Like
I mean,
mortgages are cheaper.
Like I said, yeah, okay, so in that sense, yeah. But what I'm saying, and that is a good example because you may not feel necessarily like you want to go forward with a lifetime contract or be with that person for the rest of your life. So there will be options for you, whatever your variables are in your relationship. There will be options for you to see what fits best. Do you want to do a 7-year deal? You guys are married for 7 years, and then after 7 years, you can see where you are, or even within the 7 years, do you want to break your contract? You know, or do you want to do a 3-year marriage? Maybe you guys are living abroad and you could be married in Paris for 3 years, or somewhere in Ghana, in Accra.
But now let's tackle the real issue here, right? Because the real issue, in my eyes, is that marriage is thought of as a holy institution. Marriage is
Which is trash, by the way.
Before we get there,
100%.
that's something that we have to discuss because, granted, nowadays, at least in my opinion, marriage is a commercial idea it's just a money pit. Like you spend $40,000-$50,000 on a wedding, you know, you take all these pictures and it just becomes a memory and event that you spent like a college education. And then it becomes a celebration of that event, which is just more money that you're going to spend. And literally, you know, I know people, my best friend, who did the same thing. They go to the Justice of the Peace, they get married, and it's the same happiness. I mean, and maybe it's a personal issue of not wanting to make a big deal out of it, but the bottom line is they signed a contract. They did it in a very uncelebratory way, but yet it's just as special as someone who spent $100,000 and invited 1,000 people to. So this idea that marriage is a holy institution is something that is what's the word I'm looking for? Oversaw by God or blessed by God. You know, that is kind of an archaic belief system that I think people hold on to and they view it in that way. So that being said, in the sense when you are married and you meet another married couple, you both have this belief that what you've done is special. So when you meet a single person, you not that you hold that over them, but you have this ability to look at them and go, I've made a commitment that you haven't made. I've entered into this holy institution, this special relationship because of, you know, my maturity or whatever that is. Whereas these other people, either they choose not to participate in it or they're not lucky enough, if you will, especially from, I would say, a female point of view, right? Because definitely,
And men
at least
too. There are a lot of men.
I was going to say, at least in the archaic sense, or you know, the television sense, it's always the woman who wants to be married and wants to have the big wedding and do all those kind of things. So all of that being said, how do you address the issue from people who are approaching it from a religious point of view, from who are looking at it? Because if you make contracts, if you simplify the idea, and now we have companionship contracts and 2-year contracts, and then you have these same couples who are, and there's a party, and I have me and my wife, and we married for life, and he's over here with his companionship contract, and you're over here with your 2-year contract. Now this idea of marriage is almost a joke to me, because where I have committed for my life, and I've looked at, I've taken the approach that God has blessed this, and I'm doing God's work, where you're making a mockery of it, saying, you know, me and my companion over here, we get the same benefits, but I don't need to call her my wife. And you're saying, you know, we're in a 2-year thing, and I get the option to get out. So you guys are kind of looking at me like I'm the idiot, but I'm looking at both of you like you guys are going against the whole reason why this was created, which was, you know, under the eyes of God, right?
Yeah, well, I would say to that couple that, I mean, there are things that have been discarded, overruled, changed, that come straight from the Bible. And marriage is not one of them, by the way. But that's a whole nother topic for another day. They've turned it into...
topic. We're talking about marriage.
Well,
Why would that be for another day? That's
they
today
just
is the
haven't...
day
I
of
mean,
marriage.
marriage is like it's a creation, you know, like it happened much... I mean, nobody in the Bible got married. That's number one. I don't know where the word wife and all these husband come from, but there was no ceremony like that. And it became like...
You're saying there was never a wedding in the Bible?
No, there were unions. The people were together, and then there was like
Okay, pause.
There's a lot of marriages.
no, there was no marriages.
Pause.
I mean,
Pause.
they may not say the marriage, but there's a lot of couple where they refer to the husband and wife.
Sure. Well, they used those words.
Ananias and Sapphira,
Yeah, but
Jacob
that's
and
not-
Joseph.
I mean-
Time out, because you just made a statement, and you're talking to someone who is very religious. So that's why I have to bring him in on this, because you just made a statement that there's no such thing as marriage in the Bible.
Okay,
and
maybe.
you
Okay,
say-
all right. So I walked that back.
Yeah, I would walk that back. I would walk that back.
Because I was thinking about Solomon, and I do remember that he had like a bunch of wives.
So clearly you're basing it on false information.
Nah, I think. Okay, so traditional marriage was written in, I believe, by Saint Augustine in like I don't know, who knows what BC.
You're
I
talking
don't
the
know.
Council of Nicaea.
What's that?
The Council of Nicaea, St. Augustine.
I think so. I believe. I
So
should
that's
have
where
made
the
notes.
books of the Bible were chosen. But I'm saying.
No, I'm specifically. That's when they kind of like defined what marriage.
Yeah, see now
was.
I see now I feel like you're speaking from theory and not fact.
No, that is fact though. That is a fact. We can look it up. We should really have somebody look in this.
I think we should. I think we should, because I don't want to speak too. I don't know everything about the Council of Nicaea, but what I do know about it, and what's most important about it, is that's where they were chosen, the books of the Bible. Whether they actually talked about the institution of marriage in that time, and this was 325 BC, so I am not positive, but I'm pretty sure marriage existed before 325 BC.
It probably did, and yeah, I'm not gonna argue that. But
So that's my
what
point.
I would tell the religious person who is, I guess, feeling like I am, or if I was in a 2-year marriage, then I'm kind of making a mockery out of their union would be, well, that's how things are. Marriage has changed already. I mean, there are things that they considered to be a mockery of marriage before even this suggestion. They thought that, same-sex marriage was going to ruin the institution of marriage and kind of devalue it or make a mockery of it. And guess what? That happened and nothing happened. Nothing changed. People still get married. Religious people still, I'm sure, feel the same way about marriage as they did before. So it's just an overreaction. Things changed. The Pope has changed views that have stuck in the Catholic Church for generations. And he's eased off on some of those things because the world changes around you and some of those things become relics of the past because you have to adapt. So do you want to see the institution of marriage fall apart altogether? Or would you be able to allow certain people to get married in certain ways? That's the choice that they have to face. And I don't think that they will choose for it to collapse because they're stubborn. It's just tough luck. The world has changed. That's all. I'm sorry. Things.
Sorry
change.
about your bad luck, bitch.
Yeah, things have changed and it's a new world and they're 2-year marriages now. They're 5-year marriages and they're 7-year marriages. And, I don't know what to tell you.
And on that note, breaking news: you're alive, man. So I'm pretty excited about our show here, man. That was cool. What'd you guys think? What'd you guys think about the?
It was rough. I feel like I should have looked up certain things. But we're not on the air with it.
Yeah, so we definitely
Fact checker we need.
Well, this is definitely off the cuff. We decided to come together and do this, and we've been talking about it for a while. But as far as the logistics, that's something that we're going to get down. But I'm really excited that we did this. I felt like, I feel like we're on the right track. And
I actually want to say something.
Go ahead.
I want to add something.
Go for it.
I don't want people to think that this is a way for, if you have commitment issues, this does not solve the problem. If you have commitment issues, those are things that you can only resolve with your God and or your therapist.
Yeah, but isn't that the
a
point?
2-year marriage
Isn't
is
that
not,
the point?
No,
is
it's
that
not
you're going
the
to get a
point.
contract so
That's
you
not
can
the point.
handle the
And I
commitment
should have
issue.
I should have addressed this because that is not what I had in mind when I thought about marriage contract. Look, marriage contract doesn't work for you if you have commitment issues, whether it's for 2 years or 3 years. If you have commitment issues, that is something that has to be resolved, regardless of whatever type of relationship you want to be in. So, I don't want to have the crowd of people who are like, oh, perfect. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't even trying to get locked down anyway, so let me go ahead with the 3-year. No. That is not. This is not for you.
But the bottom line
This is not the
is,
solution.
you
need
can't.
to go and figure that out internally, or with a therapist, or pray on it.
But
Probably with a therapist.
You can't create something and tell
No,
people.
I can.
You can't create.
Yes, I can.
You can't create
That
something.
is a disclaimer.
You can't create something
Yes, I
and
can.
then tell people they don't have access to it because they
I'm
have
sorry.
commitment issues.
I just don't. I
It
don't
doesn't
want it
work
to be
that
construed
way.
that way. How about
When you
that?
make a gun,
Nah,
when
nah.
you make a gun, you can't ban crazy people
Nah,
from
this is
buying
not for
it.
commitment issues, people.
You can't ban crazy people from
don't
buying it. It's the bottom
if you
line.
don't want to be with someone, don't do a 3-year deal, 2-year. It does.
You
just
found a
stop.
flaw in your own theory, and now you're trying to prevent people
It's
from
not a
taking
flaw.
advantage
It's
of
not
your
a flaw.
flaw.
It's a disclaimer.
It's a flaw.
It's a disclaimer. Because I know there are bums out there who will be like, yeah, perfect.
Ah,
I'm just
you
going to rock with a 3-year joint. Nah, it doesn't work.
Boy,
like
you're
that.
gonna have people take advantage
Nah,
of the
it's not.
system, man.
I mean, that will happen regardless, but
Yeah,
I
gotta
at least
take
want to know that
advantage.
that's not why it was formed.
It's gonna be a whole new Maury Povich segment.
No, that's not happening.
How did you take advantage of your 2-year
no,
marriage?
no.
Well, let me tell you, Jerry, I got 4 2-year
it's not
marriages,
going
man.
on.
I've been married 4, the hottest chicks you ever seen, and I got 2 years out of them, and I'm out. And you know how much I paid? 0.
Nah,
I
that's
paid
not it.
0 in alimony, Jerry.
That's not it. So yeah, just I had to add that in because I guess I slipped my mind, but it's very important, and I don't want to promote shitty behavior in relationships.
Yeah, it's
I
too
don't
late.
want this to
Too
be
late.
used
Too late. Too
as a
late.
tool for that.
It's too late. It's too late. It's too late.
So niggas
So-
can't have nice things.
So anyway, I'm your boy Steven,
And I'm Alex.
Times Square, Tony Ware.
and we're bringing to you breaking news. You're alive. I hope you enjoyed the episode. We'll be back next week with episode 2. Actually, before we go, this is our new segment we're trying out. It's our new segment. I guess we're gonna call it what? The Black Fact of the Day. Black Fact of the Day.
Black Fact
Yeah,
of
black
the Day.
Black
Kind of
fact
like
of the
that.
day.
Black Fact of the Day.
If you're not black and you're listening, this doesn't include you.
Or
No,
you
it
just
does. It does
turn
include
the shit
you
up.
because you're gonna learn about black facts. So please stay tuned.
Yeah, so Black Fact of the Day today is brought to you by
Ethiopia.
Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, who reshaped his cabinet and government and appointed half the positions to women. So 50% of the cabinet of Ethiopia now is now women, which is dope.
So he
And
literally
it should be a model for other countries.
He literally fired all the people who were in positions and replaced them with women.
Well, some of them probably were women, but yeah, it's a big move, and
Think
it's
about that.
It's something that needs to be replicated because black women are the future. They know shit.
So I think that's amazing. I mean, he went through the government, and can you imagine the prime minister walking into your office and going, hey dog, hey, check this out, dog. I'm gonna need you to go ahead and go down to the janitor's office and pick up that broom because you've been replaced. I think it's beautiful. I love it. I'm not sure if I'm with firing people and replacing them. You know, I love the democratic process. I wish we were a country that voted for more women, that voted for more people of color.
Black women.
Black women especially. I do. But it's radical enough, and we're in such a fucked up time that I think I'm glad that
And you
he
know
did
what's
it.
crazy, to be
And
honest?
I wish there was some fucking place in Mississippi or Georgia where they would do the exact same thing. And I think it'd be, well, of course we couldn't do it here in America, but I think it would be amazing if we had that kind of change, that overwhelming change in our country. I think it would be great.
Yeah, the wild thing is it shouldn't even be radical, but because of how.
Well, it's taking someone's job and giving it to
Well,
someone
no,
else
I'm
is
just
very
saying,
radical.
like, giving women.
No, that's not radical.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is
I got you.
literally coming in your office and be like, look, dog, you fired. What happened? Why you ain't did nothing? You
I
just
don't know how-
fired.
I don't know if that's how it played out, man, but
I
it's
mean,
dope. And shout out to him, and shout out to what Ethiopia is doing, and it should be a model for. Hopefully, it continues that way on that trajectory. Yeah, we'll have more black facts for you and black cool stuff.
Hey, Oprah Winfrey for president 2020.
God.
You heard it here
No more
first.
celebrities, man.
Bye, Donald. He's gonna be a one-term president. I'm gonna dog him out. You're fired.
You orange orangutan bitch.
Fired. You lost to a woman.
God. All right,
Hey,
yo.
peace, love, and blessings. Breaking news.